Welcome to Return on Insights, the show where candid conversations with bold founders and leaders spark actionable insights for your business. I'm David Lindover.
And I'm Erin Abitangelo. Each week, we pull back the curtain with leaders who are scaling teams and shaping the future, sharing the insights that create impact far beyond the bottom line.
Discover how high-performing companies build enduring cultures, inspire teams to think bigger, and turn vision into action. If you see storytelling as your strategic advantage, you're in the right place. Welcome to Return on Insights podcast. I'm David Lindover. As we know, modernizing business processes is essential for driving efficiency and meaningful outcomes. This episode features Ora Goldman, founder and CEO of Mekorma, along with Brendan Coffey, Mekorma's Director of Revenue. Together, they share insights on transforming legacy accounts payable processes through embedded financial automation within Microsoft Dynamics ERP systems. With over 30 years in tech and business process transformation, Ora brings a unique blend of visionary leadership and human-centric focus that fuels Mekorma's innovation and growth. Join us to learn how technology and purpose come together to modernize work in powerful new ways. Welcome, Ora. Welcome, Brendan. Nice to meet you here. Thanks for joining. My first question is for Brendan. What does it mean to truly modernize business processes beyond just upgrading technology?
Thanks, David. As I think a lot of us will recognize, I'll start with an anecdote that I think will help underscore this point. And it might be a little ironic that this, as much as we are technologists, this is a subject that we enjoy more than technology, because this is essentially how we get that value that we are looking for, the outcomes that we're looking for. So I have been ordering out pretty significantly. I think I'm keeping DoorDash in business single-handedly. And I set the intention that I wanted to start to cook more for myself. And so I went out and I polled the audience, my mom and my friends, about, this really fancy air fryer that is now decorating my countertop. And that's about it. And I think the resistance that I had existed both before and after I purchased this air fryer. That is to actually start to change my behavior, to develop new skills, and to build new habits around the way I think about eating. We see this very often, not only in our clients and our partners, but even within our own organization, where we adopt new technology. We have a really, really good partnership with our IT team who can get that technology set up and get it running. And yet we don't necessarily embrace some of the behaviors, the mindsets, the processes around actually driving the value that we're looking for within our organization. So when we talk about modernizing, we also add the word maturity. And so modernizing is buying that air fryer. Maturity is learning how to cook, deleting the DoorDash app, right? And really starting to think about grocery shopping and the like. So what that means in business is to say you can upgrade your technology. It's a good thing to do, but in the same context and arguably on the same roadmap, we want to look at some of the more process-oriented and mindset-oriented changes that are really going to drive the value that we're looking for from embracing this new technology.
Very insightful. Thanks, Brendan. Ora, what are some of the common pitfalls companies face when adopting new technology with old processes?
That's dear to my heart, actually. And I love the analogy that Brendan just used for the air fryer, so I'm going to try and incorporate that as well. But I picked three of the main pitfalls, and one of them is where you lift old processes and just shift them over to modern technology. You kind of replicate your outdated workflows in a new system. instead of taking the time to redesign them. So when you do that, inefficiencies just get digitized. And it would be kind of like getting your air fryer and just heating up a TV dinner in them. You're not really getting any benefit that you couldn't just get from ordering DoorDash, you know? So the second pitfall is where you don't focus on the outcomes. You say, we need a new system, instead of saying why you need a new system. What are you trying to do? For example, we need to reduce manual check runs by 50%. We're going to get people to electronic payments. That's an outcome. Or an outcome is, I want to eat healthier, fresher food, save money. You know, that's an outcome. So you don't just get an air fryer, but you think about why are you getting that. And the main thing is when you underestimate change management. That's a huge pitfall. I mean, you can drop AI into your organization, but if people don't understand how to interact with it, they aren't trained or supported, they aren't reassured, you know, like, this isn't taking your job, this is helping you so that you can do even more. Then people are going to cling to what they know, and they're not going to really get the most out of the new system. They'll just use workarounds to do what they are used to doing instead of really taking the technology to a new level.
Very thoughtful answer, Ora. Thank you very much. Brendan, so how does Mekorma's embedded AP solution streamline workflows, which Ora was just talking about, within Microsoft Dynamics systems?
Yeah, so to kind of start where we just left off, I think one of the really cool parts of our suite of products is that they are all designed with this framework in mind, in that they are all designed to be able to be implemented in iterations so that it's not necessarily a big bang, which is where we see exactly what Ora just mentioned, which is to say, this is too much, and I'm not going to embrace this, and I'm going to order DoorDash, right? To continue using this analogy. So our solutions, from a functional perspective, we offer a number of solutions that help streamline things like approvals, batching, payments, the making sure that we are in compliance with some of the regulations that we may have as a United States, I think that specifically around companies in the United States. What we do with each client is we talk through some of what they're doing today and then help them understand how to layer in our solutions in a way that can be arguably technology agnostic, so that we talk about what is the behavior, just like Ora was mentioning, what is the behavior and the intended outcome of this particular initiative, and what is the now, next, later look like. So for example, one of the examples we see very often is if we have a client that has somebody who is today signing a paper check with a pen as means of visibility and control to their cash flow and to their payments. So this is kind of our classic example, is we can start off with digitizing that signature so that the process can happen in a more remote way, and then also providing the person who had previously signed the check a fairly lightweight app on their phone or tablet or computer, right, so that they have the same visibility into the payments that are going out the door. So that can be the first step of that maturity curve. And again, this does not mean that you have to update everything in order to get there, right? We can get there likely with the technology you have today. The kind of the later step here would be, we're still going to have that approval process, but instead of checks, we're going to look at more streamlined and efficient means of payment. And this could look like our cloud payment solution, or some automation related to EFTs or ACHs, or even virtual cards. So so from both a functional perspective and a maturity perspective, our tools are designed to help clients get to that future state, not just modernizing their technology, but also embracing some more modern and some more best practices within their functionality.
Good. So, Ora, how has McCorma's partner-driven sales model influenced its growth and customer relationships?
Well, Mekorma goes all the way back in the Dynamics ecosystem. Basically, all of our business has come through partners. Almost all of our 4,000 plus customers have come through partner referrals, like 95% of them. So the partners are the trusted advisors with the clients. They have long-standing relationships with their clients, and so when they bring us in, we already enter as a trusted recommendation, and so the clients have that warmth towards that, and that brings confidence from the start. The other thing is that we're so embedded into the ERP system, so we have credibility because we're embedded into GP or Business Central or Acumatica. So we're closely aligned with those vendors, and we've worked to understand those ERP systems and put our functionality right into it. So we're not just seen as a software vendor per se, we're part of the ecosystem itself. And that's another reinforcement for like reliability, calm. Calm is one of our principles. We want to make sure that we're giving people ease in their work, and that means everything that we do is promoted to make things easy for our partners and for our customers. So the partners, they know that we integrate seamlessly, and that makes things easy, and it also reduces risk. Couple more things. We are very prioritized. We give a lot of priority to listening and to feedback. And so we are always listening for the feedback from our partners, from our customers, and funneling it back into our roadmap to also just to make sure that people get what they need. And that makes well, your question was how the partner-driven sales model influences its growth, our growth. Okay, sorry. So the feedback that I would say that most everything that we've done has sprung because of the need that comes through our partners. That's the truth. And lastly, we have built a long-term trust, and that doesn't just extend to our partners, but also to our employees. And so we have some very long-term employees, and I think that cycle where partners have relationships with throughout our team, whether it's in the sales department, whether it's in the support department, or even in development, that long-term trust creates stability. The customers can feel that stability, the partners can feel that stability, and our employees feel that stability, even during all of these changes and transitions.
Thanks, Ora. Brendan, what role do data and metrics play in refining sales and customer workflows from your perspective?
This is my favorite question because I love data. I think it's arguably the most helpful in framing many discussions. So one of the things that it will be pretty obvious is that we are very keyed into some of the metrics and data that a CFO would look like. So I would call these quote unquote classic. So time to payment, the number of errors, certainly if there's any fines, excuse me, fines or things that are out of compliance. But I think that one of the reasons that again, to Ora's point, partners and customers trust us is because we do take a more holistic look, and I will quickly list from a departmental perspective what else we look at. So we talked a little bit about the finance department and what they have kind of as the key metrics. But we also take a look at the IT department, for an example, right? So as Ora mentioned, all of our solutions are embedded. So the things that the IT department are going to look at are things like downtime, supportability, runtime, so on and so forth. And as embedded solutions, our solutions make their lives a lot easier. The other department that we would want to look at, roughly speaking, is HR. And it's a little bit of what Ora mentioned earlier around change management. So we think about things like adoption, employee turnover, training, right? And the things that will help not just, again, with the modernization of the technology, but with the maturity of the organization itself. So we love data, and we encourage our partners and our customers to take, again, that more holistic look at data that's going to not just be related to the technology, but also to their process.
Sound advice. Tell us a little bit more about what Mekorma aspires to.
So, from from an organizational perspective, one of the reasons that I love working at Mekorma is that we are so much more than a technology company. We have embraced a number of community and world-oriented initiatives. And a large part of the way we think really cares for the person, the community. And I think that what we'd like to do is really sing the song of not losing the person in the technology and the people in the technology. And that goes just as much for us as the team at Mekorma as for the larger ecosystem. So we want to be thought leaders, specifically within the AP and payment space, right? And we're really excited to be looked at as those thought leaders, and really just have the technology that we offer being the tools to getting to the future that we have helped define.
Thank you. Or two final questions. How do you balance running a tech company at the same time you're pursuing personal passion projects and activism, which I know you are? Secondly, what advice do you have for CEOs looking to build a purpose-driven organization like yours?
Oh, well, that's great. Thank you so much. So, well, I knew you were going to ask this question, and my first thought was, well, do I balance? But the first thing I did was I turned to my trusty friend who knows me so well, called ChatGPT, and I said, how would you answer this question? And the fact is, to be honest, I would say turning to ChatGPT to brainstorm ideas is one of my keys to balance. So it's become that way in such a short time but anyway, funny story. So it came up with a bunch of ideas, and I'm like, oh my God, that doesn't sound accurate. So I asked it, I said, don't you think that's a bit disingenuous? And it said, well, it was aspirational.
Yeah.
So I said, it gave me another answer, and that one was truthful enough that I could say it, which is like, it's an ongoing practice to balance personal projects and work. And some seasons could be more weighted towards one, and some seasons could be more weighted towards the other. In fact, back in 2018 and 19, my brother was able to run the company, and I went up and did activism. So I actually took like a sabbatical. So that's actually truthful, and then usually it's not quite that extreme. And like these days, I'm playing the piano a lot. That's my love and joy, is I'm getting back into music after about 30 years of family raising and company building. And so I found a way to work that into my daily routine, and it's just wonderful. And so I would say that leading the company is very grounding for me, and the creativity gives me perspective and renewal. And but the last thing I want to say doesn't come from ChatGPT at all. And I think it's a really important thing about balance, because I tend to sometimes fixate on something, get really excited about it, and dive in, and it seems juicy to me at the time. But the fact is that can be really unbalancing. And so what I find that I really ground myself when I really look at, here's how things are, and have what I call a stoic acceptance of how things are. And so it's like, we are this size company. We are not this size company. We pivoted at this point in time. We didn't pivot at that point in time, and whatever decisions led up to how we are right now, that's how we are right now. And I can't force it to be different. So when I realize that, it makes me more patient. I stop getting excited, overly excited, and spinning my wheels. I just take stock, so that keeps me in check a little bit.
Excellent.
And yeah, did you want to say anything to that?
Well, I appreciate the focus on easy, which you mentioned earlier, and then calm, which you just mentioned. So it's a great combination, something to aspire to. Speaking of aspirational, trying to make things as easy as possible, which we talked about before this podcast, using some of the new technologies. But most importantly, having that stoicism and remaining calm and understanding that you are where you are and what are your goals moving forward, right? And then to work to achieve them instead of focusing on the past so much. So I appreciate that. Brendan, I'll give you the final word.
I will reflect that technically Ora and I reconnected, and I work here now because of a personal project that she invited me to become part of. So that
Yes.
and then from a bigger perspective is that it is one of the most beautiful things about Ora is that I think that in a way, the way that we run our business is so closely tied to the way that she sees the world and sees the way that things ought to perhaps be looked at. So that doesn't necessarily promote balance in every case, but it is certainly something that I think I and the team at Mekorma really appreciate, is that she brings that energy, that passion, that leadership to the way that she runs the company itself. So that, again, not sure how balancing that is, but it is something that we very much appreciate.
Thank you for that comment. I will follow on and say that when I first met Ora and talked to her about this podcast, I think she was a little skeptical about participating. And we had a good conversation. We had some communications over email, and I wanted to pursue it. Not everybody wants to participate for a whole host of reasons. You have to accept that. But when I met Ora, I had that calm come over me, and I thought, she's very thoughtful and very authentic, and I'm sure her company runs that way. And that makes for a wonderful podcast guest. My job at Return on Insights podcast is to have guests on who can share real insights. Whether it's practical for your business or it's practical for you, that's one and the same. So that's why you're here, or I appreciate it. And I think this was a really worthwhile podcast, and I hope our viewers agree. Thank you.